Greetings, folks. AnIolairGhorm here with a World of Warships Division replay. This is a match that I and a couple of clanmates had a few days ago, and this replay is going to highlight our ability to contribute as the lowest tier vessels in an up-tiered battle. It's also kind of a nail-biter because our very persistent opponent keeps things interesting literally up to the last second. In our division, we have Schepker in the premium tier 7 German battleship, the Scharnhorst, Jimijaz in the premium tier 7 Japanese heavy cruiser, the Southern Dragon, which is a Myoko, and myself in the tier 7 US Navy light cruiser, the USS Helena. This is a domination match on mountain range, and like I said, we are badly up-tiered. We are facing a tier 9 carrier and a division of 3 tier 9 destroyers, among other higher tier ships. And the carrier and this division of destroyers will have a heavy influence on how this match gets played out. As for ship upgrades and commander skills, Schepker's Scharnhorst has a blend between the secondary build and a tank build, and he is definitely taking advantage of the tank aspect during this battle. My build in the Helena is a blend between supporting the HE and AA, and Jimijaz has kind of made a rookie mistake taking a ship with no upgrades, no premium consumables, nor did he leverage the most experienced Japanese cruiser commander he has for this battle. This being a division replay will highlight our influence in the division on the battle. In particular, Jimijaz's performance will not only redeem him for his transgressions in his ship preparation, but his performance will highlight that you can still succeed being both bottom tier and playing with handicaps like no upgrades and no premium consumables. I will also point out a rookie mistake that I make later on in the battle, so I'm hardly in any position to criticize Jim for his situation. So getting to the gameplay, having spawned on the east flank, we've moved to Charlie to help take and support this cap. I'm trying to stay as close as I can here in the Helena to our allied Z-46 because we have a very potent opposing carrier and we only have 3 destroyers, so I want to be able to provide air cover for the Z-46 while he attempts to cap Charlie. And but I also don't want to be easy fodder for the opposing battleship, so I'm kind of parked behind this island. You can see I'm already targeted by 3 opposing ships already. And although I'm not entirely sure who they are, I can see a few opposing battleships on the south side of Bravo. But here I get detected by the opposing Indianapolis, which is the sole radar ship on the opposing team. So I'm going to call target on him. The Indianapolis goes into concealment, but I'm still detected. So there's an opposing destroyer here, and it's going to be the Kitakaze, and he is going to be a major thorn in our side on this flank, especially for Schepker, and we'll see a lot of interaction between Schepker and this Kitakaze throughout the entire battle. So we're going to move to Schepker's perspective in the Scharnhorst because he's got a broadside shot on the Indianapolis. You can see me and the Helena on the left-hand side of the screen. I've slipped behind this other island to try to continue to remain in some relative cover against opposing battleships and any other torpedo sends by the opposing destroyer. And like I said, I also want to be able to provide AA cover for the Charlie Cap. We lose our first ship, which is an allied York, to the opposing carrier. So the opposing team claims first blood. And here with this next salvo that Schepker is sending, he is going to finish off the opposing Indianapolis and eliminate the sole radar threat that we have, that the opposing team has. I'm going to switch back to my perspective in the Helena. Again, I'm using the hydroacoustic search to keep the torpedoes lit up. And now that we've eliminated the radar threat, it would be preferable that our allied Z-46, which is on my port side, is now bumped into me, would get out in front and flush out the opposing Kitakaze because the Z-46 has a lot of support on this flank. And the Kitakaze, like I said, is going to continue to be a thorn in our side. And without having him eliminated, it's going to make the gameplay here on this flank very difficult. For some reason, our allied Z-46 smokes up here. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure if he intended to offer like smoke cover for me, or he accidentally smoked up, or he thought he was going to get detected or something. But we really would prefer he had been out in front of Schepker and this allied Alabama, because here is the opposing Kitakaze. The opposing Kitakaze is actually going to take a pretty sizable salvo here from the allied Alabama, which is on Schepker's port side. And he's going to the Kitakaze is going to lose about half of his health here. And so he's going to move off and work more from range. But you can see that he set Schepker on fire, and that's the first of multiple fires that he gets on Schepker during the battle. We lose 2 more ships in very quick succession, a Fletcher and a Bismarck on the other flank. And we're also going to sink an opposing Tirpitz here, and there goes the opposing Tirpitz. So we have a slight point deficit, but we do hold 2 caps. And again, we really need our Z46 to get out in front. And here Schepker gets set on fire again by the opposing Kitakaze. And then Schepker is about to take a pretty sizable salvo here from the opposing Iowa and lose about almost half of his health in that single salvo. I'm going to switch to Jimijaz's perspective in the Southern Dragon. So Jimijaz has been putting range fire on ships that are south of Bravo. He's now going to work on this Richelieu that has isolated himself and is moving into the Bravo cap. Jimijaz is going to send a spread of torpedoes in the direction of the Richelieu. And then here in a moment, Jimijaz is going to discover some torpedoes sent by one of the opposing destroyers. And Jimijaz knows there is a destroyer in the area because he was detected even before he had been firing. And in fact, you may have noticed earlier in the battle, he had pinged on the map a couple of times and kind of warned our allied carrier that there was an opposing destroyer on this flank. And there are the torpedoes from the opposing destroyer. So again, Jimijaz is pinging on the map here to say, hey, carrier, we've got an opposing destroyer that's very close to us, and you can guess where this is going to end up going, because Jimijaz is the closest allied ship to the opposing carrier, or to the allied carrier, excuse me, and so the carrier is at risk. We switch to Schepker's view briefly to see that the Kitakaze has re-engaged him. Here we switch back to Jimijaz's perspective in the Southern Dragon, and those torpedoes that he sent earlier were successful in sinking the Richelieu. Switch to my perspective here in the Helena, because I'm trying to help Schepker with the Iowa that has gotten kind of on his flank. And then we switch back to Jimijaz's perspective in the Southern Dragon, because here he now detects the Yugumo. The Yugumo was successful in torpedoing and sinking our carrier, and now is within hard detection range of Jimijaz. So Jimijaz sends one salvo. He needs to kite away here because we're not sure whether this Yugumo is a reload Yugumo or he's smoke. So Jimijaz has to assume that the Yugumo has torpedoes available to him. Jimijaz sends one spread of torpedoes, and he does get a torpedo on the Yugumo. He gets a couple more shells off. Here comes one set of torpedoes from the Yugumo. The Yugumo is going to send another set, but Jimijaz is going to be able to thread these 2 sets, and Jimijaz sends another set of torpedoes of his own back towards the Yugumo, and that second set is going to finish off the Yugumo. So fairly hair-raising event for Jimijaz, and what is essentially a neutered Myoko, and yet he's able to take out an opposing Tier 9 destroyer. We can see that in the Alpha Cap, we've switched to Schepker's view in the Scharnhorst here, because again, he's having this sort of continued engagement with the opposing Kitakaze. But you can see in Alpha, which we had taken earlier, there is an opposing destroyer. It's the Z46, has moved into that cap. And here you'll see in chat, I've advised the Alsace, our allied Alsace, which is in Alpha, to get out, because he can't see the opposing destroyer that is on his flank. And so he's at very serious risk of being sunk by the opposing carrier, by the opposing destroyer. Now, as it is, the opposing destroyer did move out of the cap, but we know that he is very close to our Alsace and certainly within torpedo range to be able to take out the Alsace. Schepker is continuing to work this flank, trying to push back the opposing Iowa. And the Iowa is going to take some torpedoes from the Allied Z-46 and is going to be sunk here. But here again, you're seeing fire coming in from the opposing Kitakaze, and I believe he does set Schepker on fire here again, yes. So this is, again, more fires set by the Kitakaze on Schepker. Schepker now has an opportunity to peel away and try to get out of range of this Kitakaze. He calls target on the Kitakaze, and for some reason, again, our Z-46 is not engaging this low-health destroyer. The Z-46 has got backup from 2 battleships, so I'm not sure why the Z-46 isn't attempting to get the Kitakaze down, but he doesn't fire on the Kitakaze, and the Kitakaze is able to get back into concealment and get back out of range. We switched to my perspective in the Helena because I've been putting fire on the second of 2 Richelieus on the opposing team. Most of the health that this Richelieu has lost has been due to fire I had been setting on him earlier. I previously had 3 fires going on him. I now got another fire going on him. But I've been able to wear down this Richelieu pretty heavily and keep him from pushing forward through this flank. We lose 2 more ships, including the Alsace, to the Z-46, the opposing Z-46. We're going to move to Schepker's view here in the Scharnhorst. He's going to get the final few shots in on the opposing Richelieu. The Richelieu is going to set Schepker on fire again. Schepker is having to actually use his last repair party to survive this fire. And he gets a couple more shells out and is able to get the opposing Richelieu down before the Richelieu is able to fire on him again. Schepker is finally able to use his damage control, and that has been coming up faster than usual thanks to both the signal that he's carrying as well as having the high alert skill on his commander. We're now switched to my perspective in the Helena because I'm rejoining Schepker to provide him better AA cover. Because now that Schepker has taken so much damage and he likely has lost the majority of his AA due to the fire from the opposing Kitakaze, I need to provide Schepker with as much AA support as I can. We're going to switch to the Southern Dragon's perspective. This is Jimijaz's perspective. He's moved into Bravo to help try to take the cap from the opposing team here at Bravo. But the opposing carrier is sending a drop in, and so Jimijaz is going to be forced to turn out to try to avoid the drop. But we anticipated he was either going to drop on Jimijaz or on Schepker. We switched to my view. I activate my defensive fire, but it is in fact Schepker, whose perspective we now switch to, that the carrier was going after. He does get a bomb hit, and Schepker is set on fire again, and he has no more repair parties. His damage control is just about to come off cooldown, and he's going to be able to survive with barely 600 hit points for the remainder of the battle, or as long as he can survive. So he's going to draw back as far as he can because at this point he's only a shell or 2 away from death. Now here we're going to switch to my perspective in the Helena. This is where I make my rookie mistake. We clearly knew the opposing Z-46 was over here. I had hydroacoustic search ready and available, and yet I didn't use it. And me being a German cruiser commander, I of all people should know when to use hydroacoustic search to defend against torpedo sends, and yet I failed to activate it, even though we knew that the opposing Z-46 was on this flank. So that was entirely on me. I could have avoided taking damage from those torpedoes. The opposing Z-46 is focusing me because I basically have almost no health, and he is able to take me down. And now we switch to Jimijaz's perspective in the Southern Dragon. He's going to continue to pursue the Z46. The Z46's smoke expires, and the Z46 is simply too close to get in, to not be able to get back into concealment. So Jimijaz is going to hunt him down. Jimijaz is able to get the Bravo cap, which definitely helps us. We do have a fairly narrow lead, but the opposing team has 3 ships left, including 2 very skilled destroyer captains, as well as the opposing carrier. And we can see that the opposing Kitakaze has moved into Charlie because the Charlie cap is being taken. And so our lead at this point is very precarious. Schepker is turning to get, Jimijaz is turning to get his other guns on the Z46, but he really wants to get the Z46 down before he slips back into cover, and he is able to sink the Z46. And now we're going to switch to Schepker's view because the Charlie cap is just about to be taken. The opposing Kitakaze is now detected because he has fired on Schepker, trying to get a couple of shells in to take Schepker down before Schepker is able to fire on him. But Schepker is able to turn, get a couple of shots off before he is taken down, and then he is able to sink the Kitakaze. By incredible stroke of good skill and attention to the minimap, Schepker is able to finish off the last destroyer. That leaves it in a one-on-one battle between essentially a neutered Tier 7 cruiser and a Tier 9 aircraft carrier. Here comes the first strike from the opposing aircraft carrier, 2 bomber squads. Schepker takes 1 hit with 2 fires, and then he's going to take another hit, but it's not going to set another fire. That one didn't do quite as much damage. Now, Jimijaz is going to hold his repair party and hold his defensive fire for the torpedo bombers that are coming, because he can survive the fire. In fact, the fire will go out before the torpedo bombers get here. But in particular, he wants to hold his defensive fire until the torpedo bombers are almost on top of him. Here he activates it. It is generally better to try to be nose in on a torpedo drop to be able to thread the torpedoes, but Jimijaz didn't really have that option. So he's having to try to keep his tail on the carrier, on the torpedo bombers. And this is probably where one of the places where the fact that he didn't have an upgrade meant that he probably had less responsive rudder shift, and he does end up taking 1 torpedo right on the bow, but fortunately there is no flooding, and so he's able to survive that strike. Now I'm going to speed up the replay here because for the next couple of minutes Jimijaz is going to work on capping Alpha as we wait for the next torpedo or next strike set to come in from the carrier. We have enough of a lead that frankly we didn't really need this cap in order to win. The main thing in order to win at this point is for Jimijaz to survive. He won't have defensive fire here again for another more than a minute, and yet there are only about 15 seconds left in the game. So the question is whether the opposing carrier is going to be able to get this drop off in time to sink Jimijaz before time expires. Jimijaz was able to do enough maneuvering and get far enough north that the carrier was unable to get his strike off, and we end up winning the match by the skin of our teeth. So a good close battle, and Jimijaz comes in top XP for the entire game, even though he was in a handicapped Tier 7 cruiser. I'll leave the results up for all 3 of our ships, and I hope you enjoyed the replay and commentary. Please do leave your comments and ideas and suggestions below, and as always, we hope to see you out there, and we wish you happy sailing.